Hi everyone, I'm Nicholas Tutora. Welcome to Tutora Time. The most recent job report came out a few days ago, and it shows that the United States roughly added 250,000 new jobs to the economy, when the expectation of the jobs report was to be 800,000 to 1 million jobs added. So it fell quite short of that.
This month's job numbers show we're on the right track. We still have a long way to go.
And one of the main reasons that the Democrats don't want to admit is that the higher unemployment insurance benefits prevents people from going out and looking for a job. I mean, it only makes sense. Who's going to go and work 40 hours a week to get less money than they could get from unemployment? So now we're going to see the whole Democrat house of cards start to crumble, and it's going to be quite amusing because now, in order to continue to receive federal unemployment benefits, the government wants you to prove that you are indeed looking for a job.
Mr. President, do you believe enhanced unemployment benefits had any effect on diminishing a return to work in some categories?
No, nothing measurable.
So now the Democrats are going to have to quickly uncondition the minds of everybody they just conditioned to rely on the government. Joe Biden is saying that the higher unemployment benefits don't really affect the job market. That's absurd. We're in a very unique situation here in America. Right now, there are plenty of jobs available, but nobody wants to take the jobs because they're getting more being unemployed. So now people are going to have to show that they're indeed looking for work. While COVID was on, people did not have to show that because that requirement was lifted, so people aren't exposed to the COVID virus. The Democrats have painted themselves into a corner. Either COVID is so deadly that we have to be careful and we can't really be amongst people, or COVID is not so deadly that it's time for everybody to go back to work.
As I said, my laser focus is on growing the nation's economy and creating jobs. My laser focus is on vaccinating our nation.
So what are the Democrats going to let go of? Remember, you couldn't go to work and you couldn't go into large crowds and you couldn't live as a free person because being out during COVID risked exposure to yourself and others. But now that the government needs jobs to be filled, now they're going to magically lift the COVID restrictions and say that it's safe for people to return to work, even though there's this deadly pandemic raging. Like most things the Democrats say, it doesn't really add up. It doesn't really make sense. But what's going to happen is by telling everyone they have to start looking for work in order to get unemployment benefits, the Democrats' base is going to start to revolt against them. Because let's face it, one of the reasons they put the Democrats in power is because they want a lot of free stuff. And now Joe Biden's going to tell them, you're not getting that much free stuff after all. Gee, what a surprise. Joe Biden's going back on his word. Who would have thought it? And what's all this talk with Joe Biden saying how the government is creating jobs? This is not the government's job. The government's job is to limit the regulations and get out of business's way, and business creates jobs. The government knows very little about creating jobs because they never actually have to turn a profit. So they can give people a job, but they don't have any profits that they're employing people with. All the money that the government is going to use to employ people is raising your taxes or borrowing and driving us further into debt and leveraging our grandchildren's future. It's going to be interesting to watch this unfold.
Unfortunately, we're still in the midst of a pandemic.
So it's time for everybody to return to work. Even though there's still supposedly a pandemic, and even though it's not safe to be out, now they want you to go to work and risk your health because they need the jobs report to add up. And because they realize just giving everybody money, after a while, the economy stops functioning because you take away people's incentive to work. You take away creativity, productivity, just like was predicted all along, just like always happens. But the Democrats had to put us through their painful charade in order for them to understand it. So let's see how this all unfolds, folks. It's going to be fun to watch the Democrats devour themselves. Universal basic income, all these ideas, they sound nice on paper, but when you put them into practice, you soon see You have high unemployment because people don't want to work if they can make more just by staying home. I'm Nicholas Tutora. I'll talk to you again soon on Tutora Time.